for other things and so on, illegal works and so on. And especially what I find crucial is that they are, in almost all cases, displaced, torn away from their ethnic roots, from their, whatever this would mean, original dwelling or what. So they are deprived of their roots. They are not in any sense a community. They are literally a collective. Individuals thrown together. And again, their number is growing. I think that this is, again, for me at least, this is the most explosive situation. And I think if a utopia will happen today, a utopian explosion, by this I mean simply an invention of some new forms of collective life. It will have to happen there. Now, I even visited, believe me or not, some slums in Latin America, so favelas and so on. So I'm not dreaming here in the sense that I'm not idealizing the slums. To put it gently, many things are going on there. You have parts of slums which are controlled by gangs. You have parts which are controlled by religious fundamentalists. Although already with the religious fundamentalists things are very ambiguous because often quite revolutionary, quite radical social programs are put into the language of religious fundamentalists. But also new forms of cooperatives, new forms of social lives are invented there. And my true dream, now maybe I'm a little bit utopian, would have been, let's watch carefully for the moment when, if some new forms of consciousness, not just as a passive consciousness, but of collective consciousness, to use a term which is not correct here, some new ideological forms, some new forms of social life specific to slums will develop. That's, I think, what we have to look for. So, you know, it's easy to celebrate hybridity. Again, we have two forms of hybridity. There is hybridity of the slum people and hybridity of, I don't know, the generate upper middle class intellectuals like me who flies around, sometimes even business class and so on, no? So what I want to say is that it's not simply hybridity and so on, that the terrain of struggle is today within the domain of hybridity, between the new so-called intellectual class and the slum dwellers. And what these slums demonstrate, I think, is that in its innermost, utopia has nothing to do with imagining an impossible ideal future society. Utopia, I think, is something that you have to invent because there is no other way out for you. Every authentic utopia is this. Utopia is not you live relatively comfortably and then you dream, oh my God, what more can I do? Utopia means when simply there is no way out and it's a matter of survival to invent something. And that's what I'm talking about. Their life is so desperate in slums that either they can vegetate by clinging to old ways, you organize criminal gangs, religious fundamentalism, but these attempts fail. I claim that they are the ones who occupy, again, what Alain Badiou would have called a site of the event. They are pushed, as it were, in order to survive with a minimum of decency, pushed into inventing some new forms of social life. So again, let me be very precise here when we speak about utopia. When I say that I'm for utopia, I don't mean this crap after 68 which was popular. Every right-winger would agree with it, that with all problematic things, the 68, student revolution, nonetheless liberated our energies, creative energies to fantasize and so on and so on. No, the true authentic utopia, again, are a matter of despair. It's, my God, how can I survive? We should, in this sense, distinguish this utopia from, on the one hand, the standard utopias, big classical utopias, where you imagine an ideal society while being fully aware that it will never be realized. It's not only Plato, Republic, it's not only Thomas More utopia, let's not forget that Marquis de Sade's philosophy in the boudoir also belongs into this line. Then we have the capitalist utopia, which is, I think, also extremely interesting to follow, because it is in the capitalist utopia that you find today's ideological trends at its most radical. For example, I will now tell you an example which, my God, if this is not utopia, then I don't know what utopia is. In some so-called radical circles, I have some doubts. In the United States, I was there, I noticed it's marginal, but it's typical, I think. It's a sign of age. They debated the following problem. You know, this politically correct mantra, all marginal groups all have to be satisfied, find their way. So the problem was what to do with necrophiliacs, no? Okay. So the proposal was, in the same way that we do it, if you die, every politically correct guy to their humanitarian, no, you write a paper, in the case of my death, my organs could be used. Wouldn't it be politically correct also to say, you can give my body to a necrophiliac so that, and so on, to solve their problem? But I think, why is this a signal? Because I think this is then a perfect politically correct sex. The guy is dead, nobody is hurt, you don't have to worry about harassment and so on. I think there is a dead body does not enjoy. You also, you know, the big political problem, which is usually formulated in terms no harassment, it simply means I don't tolerate the otherness. No, the other shouldn't come too close to me. Here the other is dead, so everything is correct, everything functions. No. So neither this utopian aspect of capitalism, nor the old classical utopians, but the political utopia. Let me now dwell, to come to my title, to the end now, a little bit on this capitalist utopia today. I think this capitalist utopia, at its most interesting, it's today focused on these fashionable topics of digitalization, biogenetics, and so on and so on. It's really interesting what is going on here. How the ultimate utopian dream is, to put it very simply, the shift from hardware into software. That is to say that at some point our identity will no longer be attached to a certain body with a certain brain, but we will turn, we humans, I will just be a software, and I will be able to, as it were, download myself from one into another hardware. And what I find so characteristic is what kind of utopian content is mentioned here. The first one is a kind of almost Buddhist notion of getting rid of all suffering. For example, in one of the books about this ultimate capitalist utopia, the author is David Pearce. The title of the book, typically, is The Hedonistic Imperative, and he means it in a good sense. He says, nanotechnology and genetic engineering will eliminate aversive experience from the living world. Over the next 1,000 years or so, the biological substrates of suffering will be eradicated completely, since we shall achieve the neurochemical precision engineering of happiness for every sentient organism on the planet. So even microbes will not suffer. Linked to this is an obsession with being clean. A further quote from the same book. A Superman must be cleaner than a man. Superman is the one who is already a software. In the future,